So you might be disabled and maybe you received a personal injury settlement or an inheritance, and now you have this money, but you're also receiving SSI benefits or Medi-Cal, Medicaid benefits, and you're at risk of losing those benefits. Well, what should you do? Well, maybe somebody recommended that you set up a pooled trust, and you're thinking, what is a pooled trust? Is that right for me? In this video, we'll answer these questions and more. So if you're a disabled person and you're receiving needs-based public benefits like SSI or Medicaid, which in California we call Medi-Cal, and then you receive money, you can turn around and put that money into what we call a self-settled trust, which is basically a trust that receives your own money, the self's money. That money could have been, maybe you worked for a long time and then you became injured and you need to protect that money. Or maybe, as we mentioned, it might be from a personal injury or a litigation settlement, or it might be from a well-meaning grandma who left you $100,000, but it's like, hold on, grandma, I can't get my SSI benefits if I receive that money. And remember, to qualify for SSI, as you might know, you can only have $2,000 in the bank, which is hardly anything. Congress has worked to increase that to $8,000, but they have not been successful so far. So we're really at poverty level amounts of money. But if you put that money into a self-settled special needs trust, then presto, you qualify for those benefits again, because the money in the self-settled trust does not count as your money for public benefits purposes. Now, one note I want to make is that in California only, not in other states, but in California, Medi-Cal does not look at resources anymore. I know, it's incredible. I have a video on this called Medi-Cal Updates for 2024. So you might actually not need a self-settled trust if you're only receiving Medi-Cal and not receiving SSI. But if you do receive public benefits where resources could interfere with the benefits that you're receiving, then you really need to hear this information. So for self-settled trust, there's really two types, okay? There's what we call a D4A special needs trust, and there's a D4C special needs trust. And if you're curious, the name of these trusts really come from the statutes which create the trust. So that's 42 U.S. Code Section 1396P D4A and D4C. I know, we're so creative with our names in estate planning, aren't we? So for D4A special needs trusts, I've discussed those a lot in my video called How to Receive an Inheritance While on Public Benefits. But I'm just going to give you a recap. So a D4A special needs trust can be set up by the disabled person themselves, the parent, a grandparent, or through the court. The beneficiary gets to choose who's going to act as trustee, that is, who's going to manage their money. The beneficiary, the disabled person, cannot manage their own money, but they can choose who would be trustee. Then upon the beneficiary's death, Medi-Cal gets to bring a reimbursement claim against any remaining money. And then if there's any money left after the reimbursement claim, then it goes wherever the trust says. Okay, so let's compare a D4A special needs trust to a pooled trust, which is the D4C special needs trust. So what is a pooled trust? Basically, it's a nonprofit organization or a 501c3 that can set up this type of trust. So the nonprofit organization creates what's called a master trust. The terms of the master trust don't change. To join this trust as a beneficiary, you sign what's called a joinder agreement. That gets you an individual account set up within the pool of many different accounts. Then the managing entity oversees all of these accounts. The managing entity acts as trustee. So you don't get to choose which trustee you want. It's going to be the nonprofit organization that is trustee. So the idea here is that combining, many beneficiaries together can create some efficiencies where you don't need one trustee for each trust, but it can be more cost effective, and it can also maximize investment opportunities since you're dealing with more money under management. Then when you die, instead of the Medi-Cal reimbursement, the nonprofit can keep whatever Medi-Cal was going to get. Okay, so it's a little bit different that way. Now, one big difference that I want to mention is that for a D4A special needs trust, you have to be under age 65 to fund one. All right, so if you're age 65 or up, a pooled trust is really your only option.
Hey everyone, if you like my mom's video, like and subscribe.
Now besides that, there's a few other reasons why somebody might choose to set up a pooled trust instead of a D4A special needs trust. One reason is maybe you just don't have enough money. to fund a D4A special needs trust. A lot of people might name a family member or a friend as trustee, and maybe they would manage it for free. But you may not have that, or maybe that's just not a good idea because they don't have the sophistication to understand how to manage such a complex trust. But to get a private professional fiduciary or a bank to act as trustee of your D4A special needs trust, there has to be at least a certain amount of money in the trust. And maybe you don't have enough in the trust, so you choose a pooled trust instead. Also, you may just not want to pay the fees to work with an attorney to set up a D4A special needs trust. There really is, as far as I know, I don't think there are any statutory forms that you can use to set up a D4A special needs trust, and they're very complicated and risky. SSI, they go after D4A special needs trusts all the time. So you really want to work with an attorney who specializes in this type of thing, like our office, or maybe there's a few other offices out there. But not that many people do first-party special needs trusts, and they tend to be pretty expensive. So you may choose, hey, I just don't want to work with an attorney on this, and you can join the pooled trust, and it's quite inexpensive to do so. So maybe you've decided, hey, I want to use a pooled trust. Well, how do you choose the right one? There's a lot of nonprofits out there that run pooled trusts. Well, I think you have to be very careful in your selection process. And I say this because honestly, there's not a lot of regulation out there over pooled trusts. So some shady stuff can be going on. I want to give you an example. In 2022, a guy named Leo Giavoni ran a nonprofit called Center for Special Needs Trust Administration in Florida. Leo was sued for stealing $105 million from this pooled trust. And then in February 2024, that center applied for bankruptcy. This means that more than 1,500 of those trusts within the pool there are now missing some or all of their assets. It's really a tragedy and it's horrible. Another challenge is that the pooled trust needs to maintain a certain amount of money to be able to pay their money managers and all the administrators who work to make the pooled trust a success. And sometimes pooled trusts can run out of money and then they're dissolved. So here are some things I think you should look for when you're selecting a pooled trust. First, you should make sure that the pooled trust is regularly audited. Yeah, this sounds like a no-brainer, right? But some pooled trusts actually don't do this. Also, make sure that the pooled trusts carry fiduciary insurance and directors and officers insurance to provide coverage in case of theft or fraud, just like that horrible Leo Giavoni guy. Another thing I think you should be able to do is, if you're the beneficiary, you should always be able to see what the balance is in your particular trust account. Even though as beneficiary, you can't manage the funds yourself, you should be able to at least view the funds and see how they are being managed. I think transparency is key here. I also think that pooled trusts should have multiple asset allocation models. It's cash that goes into a pooled trust, as opposed to other types of special needs trusts, which can hold many different types of assets. Pooled trusts, they just hold cash. And then they should be invested. Perhaps you're a bit more assertive in your investing, or maybe you're a little bit more conservative. You should be able to choose several levels. It shouldn't just be like, we invest one way. I don't think that's very consumer friendly. And then finally, look into the distribution process. How easy or hard is it to request a payment? Is there something online that you can just fill out and say, hey, I want my pooled trust to buy this certain thing, and then, if it's within the spending plan, then it gets sent to you? Or is it more complex than that? Again, the more transparency and ease of use, the better. So here at Cookman Law, we don't assist in setting up pooled trusts, but I really wanted you to have this information. But if you need help with California estate planning, special needs planning, including third-party and D4A first-party special needs trusts or trust administrations, we're here for you. And please reach out to our office. Thank you.
Hello everyone. If you liked my mom's video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you all next time.